Whilst it's true that Tesla's market share has declined a little bit in the United States and Australia, in Europe, a different game is playing out. In fact, in November, nearly 1 in 4 of all EVs sold were actually Teslas, 22.6%. Nearly half of all passenger cars in the European Union were electrified from January to November this year. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Just want to say happy Christmas. If it's Christmas, maybe it's even Christmas Day while you're watching this video. I hope you had an amazing Christmas and I hope you had a good year. Speaking of good years, it's been a good year in Europe when it comes to the sales of electric cars. They have grown, in spite of the media telling us otherwise. Sales of electric cars in the European Union were almost half of all new passenger car registrations in the EU between January and November 2023, and already crossed the halfway mark in the month of November. So in the month of November, they were obviously higher than what they were for the rest of the year, and that's showing us that there is growth, in spite of the fact that Germany has just cancelled its EV incentives. Electrified vehicles, either fully electric models or plug-in hybrids, accounted for over 47% of all new passenger car registrations in the EU as of November, up from 40% in the same period last year. New car registrations in the EU increased by 6.7%, the 16th consecutive month of growth, with a year-on-year rise of 13.3% in the registration of electric vehicles. The sales of diesels. Electric cars are taking away sale of diesel vehicles. And remember there was a time when companies like Volkswagen Group said we have clean diesels. Yeah, well, we now know that was all a bit of a joke. Well, it was all just a huge joke. No such thing as clean diesels. Diesel sales have dried up significantly. In fact, diesel sales have hit their lowest point in the last 20 years. In Europe, they're down a further 10% in November. Registrations of fully electric cars rose 16.4% from a year earlier to 144,700 vehicles, even as registrations in Germany, the biggest EV market in Europe, fell by 22.5% to 45,000 vehicles. Why have they fallen in Germany? Well, one reason is because EV subsidies have just been cancelled. That has affected sales growth. Will it change in over the next 12 months, for example? Well, that depends, because there are a lot of new models coming which are more affordable. That, I think, will help drive adoption. In the electrified market, consumers continued to buy a lot of hybrids as well, with a year-on-year increase of 28.7%. Demand for plug-in hybrids declined, though, by 22%. So people are either buying a hybrid or a fully electric car. Plug-in hybrids are dying a pretty fast death in Europe, as I've mentioned on the channel numerous times. Registrations of hybrid electric cars in Germany, France, and Italy were over 1.5 million year to date, out of almost 2.5 million total vehicles in the EU. Despite the rise of electric vehicles, the ACA said in December that in Europe the EV sector risks falling behind other regions' EV sectors without a robust EU industrial strategy, amid China's dominance of the supply chain and US incentives for its automakers. And to give you some context on this, this is true. In the month of November, 600,000 electric cars were sold in China. 4 times as many EVs were sold in November in China as what was sold in Europe. That's a huge difference. And all of those EVs, of course, are being made in China. Many of those EVs being made in China, and they're being shipped to Europe to be sold in Europe. Some car makers and analysts have cited a plateau in demand for electric vehicles over the past months, saying that the growth has slowed. Europe's largest car maker, Volkswagen, said in October that demand for its EVs was not developing as expected, while luxury vehicle manufacturer Mercedes-Benz warned of a brutal EV market of heavy price cuts and supply chain issues. Tesla, on the other hand, though, is still doing really well in Europe. And it has the best-selling vehicle, period, for the entire year, which is the Tesla Model Y. Registrations, though, at Volkswagen and Renault rose by 11% and 6.1% respectively. But Stellantis, on the other hand, their registrations fell by 7.3%. Tesla recorded a jump of almost 45% in sales, making up nearly 22% of fully electric car registrations in the EU. Nearly 22%, a rise of 45%. As you can see, Tesla is, well, not having the same problems that the Volkswagen Group are having. The number of new vehicles registered in November in the EU, Britain, and the European Free Trade Association grew by 6% to 1.1 million vehicles, said the ACA. And really, it appears to me as though one manufacturer is taking advantage of the situation. It's selling affordably priced cars. The Model Y and the Model 3 have had their prices reduced significantly in Europe, making them really on par with similarly specified internal combustion engine vehicles. But here's the point, and I've been saying this for a long time. Equivalent vehicles from the Volkswagen Group are more expensive than they should be. For example, the cheapest Model Y is actually about the same price as a mid-spec Volkswagen ID3, which is the much, much smaller car. So buyers are really looking for value, and the Volkswagen Group hasn't been bringing the value. That's what they need to sell more electric cars. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.